A food allergy diagnosis changes your life. Food allergies affect you, your family, your education, your career, your everything. That said, as with all adversity in life, you have choices in how you can handle it. Some people choose to raise their hands, stand up, and get involved as advocates. They look food allergy right in the face and say, I've got this. And they focus their energy on empowering others to feel the same. These food allergy warriors range in age and background, but have one thing in common. They turned their food allergy story into action. Now I'm going to shine the spotlight on them to inspire you to join the fight against food allergies. This is Take Action with Hillary Carter. Hi, I'm Hillary Carter. I'm a food allergy mom, advocate, and proud member of FAIR's Board of Governors. And I am so excited to introduce you to Lizzie Reynolds. She is a magical food allergy travel agent and owner of Pixie Lizzie. Thank you so much for joining me today.
I'm so glad to be here. It's an honor.
Oh, well, it is an honor for me, and I am such a fan of yours, and I'm so excited to share your story with everyone today. So let's start with food allergies, because that's really why we're all here. Tell me a little bit about your food allergy story.
Okay, well, my daughter, who's now 16, she was diagnosed with food allergies when she was a baby, the first time I ever nursed her. And she had a reaction, and we called the doctor right away, and it wasn't anaphylaxis. Now, looking back on it, because this is 2004, I probably would have epied her, but I didn't have an EpiPen. It was the first time I didn't breastfeed her, and I gave her some organic milk formula. And she had hives, she was coughing, she was spitting up, and I didn't even know what hives were at the time. So if you can imagine, I just called the doctor and they said, oh, milk is a very common allergy. She'll outgrow it. Fast forward, and that was the first year was fine. Fast forward, her birthday party, it was the first time she had anaphylaxis. They said, give her a birthday cake, try dairy then. I did, and she had full-blown anaphylaxis. We went to the hospital. They didn't know what to do, and I kind of had to coach them through it by Googling stuff, if you can believe it.
Oh,
Anyway, from then on, I became an advocate for her, like every mother and father, grandparents, that really understand food allergies and understand it has to be taken seriously. I wanted to be a stay-at-home mom because I had taught Montessori for 22 years and made all the really good yummy treats and stuff like that for the classroom. And that's pretty much our background with the first food allergies. She was allergic to egg and dairy. She outgrew the egg like some kids do. And I don't know if the term outgrew is appropriate anymore, but she wasn't allergic to it anymore at about age 8. However, when she became 8 to 9, in that time, we don't know exactly when she became allergic to it, but we were in Austin, Texas, and we went to a little vegan restaurant for her to get her stuff to go. She didn't want anything to eat there. I mean, like nothing. It was, and a lot of it had nuts in it. And she's like, Mom, I'm not allergic to nuts. And I said, okay, well, I'll let you get one dessert, because I had never let her have nuts. Peanuts or tree nuts. That's what we were told back in the day. Well, now we know that what I should have done this much earlier when she was younger, but we just didn't know. So I let her have it, and she had full-blown anaphylaxis. And so that's when we came back home. We found out she was allergic to peanuts and tree nuts, and then dairy. So that's kind of our walk we've been on now with the food allergies. Lots of navigation with schools, parties, parents, traveling, and we'll get more into that. But that's pretty much our background. We don't have any other food allergies except for, this is crazy, my mom tells me, she would be in her 90s if she was alive today. She tells me, oh, my brother called and said you're allergic, that she was allergic to dairy when she was little. So they gave her goat's milk until she was 2 years old. But she doesn't remember that because she was a baby. So anyway, this is kind of fascinating.
It always comes out of the woodwork, right? All of a sudden you find out there's somebody somewhere.
Exactly.
Well, and we're in the same camp where, the guidelines changed about when to introduce nuts and other allergens. So my children were also under that earlier recommendation to wait. And lo and behold, ended up with nut allergies. So we'll never know for sure, but there's a whole lot of us out there. So I feel your pain on that. But what a journey. Now, how is your daughter today? I know she's 16. How is she doing with her allergies, with school? How are you finding that?
She's 16. She's had anaphylaxis several times, twice to peanuts and tree nuts, 7 times to dairy. And for those that have teenagers, you'll remember back when this exploded in 2004, the year she was actually born. Things weren't labeled. And so I feel guilty. The whole guilt thing with moms and dads with food allergies goes beyond, but I feel so guilty when I say she's had anaphylaxis 7 times. Things weren't labeled or things weren't clearly stated in a restaurant. And so she has had anaphylaxis. I think she's very healthy. She doesn't have a lot of anxiety like a lot of kids do. If she ever had a problem with something or if I had a problem, more or less, if I had a problem or an issue, if like the lacrosse coach said, we're having pizza and that's it. And so she couldn't go to lacrosse anymore. I wouldn't go into depth with her about it at all.
Mm.
I would go in the shower and cry. And so I think there's a whole lot of anxiety that goes on with parents that no one talks about. Maybe with this pandemic and the cross-contamination issue, it will come to light that we've all been doing this for years. What everyone's doing, we don't stay at home. Well, sometimes we do. We don't go to parties and we don't do certain things and we don't travel and stuff like that. But she doesn't have anxiety. She's really level-headed about it. And she doesn't have anxiety because she knows what she can, what she can't do. She's EPI'd herself. I've done it and she knows that it will save her life. I think a lot of children out there, unfortunately, have never experienced an EpiPen, and it's absolutely terrifying for them. So I do feel, in a weird way, kind of lucky that she's had that experience. Does that make sense?
It makes complete sense. And I actually have, kind of a weird story where my older son, he is allergic to peanuts, tree nuts, chickpea, lentil, green pea. And he had never had an anaphylactic reaction. And I was a little bit almost worried about it for like the same reasons you're talking about, because I didn't want him to not take it seriously or to not understand it or to be reckless with his allergies. And he never has been, but he's very young. And he had his first anaphylactic reaction 2 years ago. And we gave him the EpiPen. And it actually was nice because it wasn't nice. That's not a great way to put it, but it was a great educational moment. It was not a really scary, terrifying anaphylactic reaction like I've seen with my younger son. It was definitely anaphylaxis, but it felt a little slow and a little, in control. I felt like we were okay. And so I was able to sort of talk through it with him. And we sort of did the EpiPen together. And he actually said, when will it be over? And I was like, sweetie, I've already given you the shot. We actually used the AviQ that time. But I think him being able to live through and experience anaphylaxis and know what it felt like, at least that version, and know that the EpiPen wasn't scary and know that he was going to be okay was a huge learning for us. And so there is value in letting your kids have those, not letting them, but when there is the experience, you can turn it into a positive where they feel more empowered and in control. So it makes perfect sense to me.
Right.
And you've done it. I said, great job, Mama, that she's level-headed and she's been able to give herself the medication. It's not easy. And so kudos to you.
A lot of it is hiding the adult feelings and because you're threatened, your child's life is literally threatened. And after they have anaphylaxis, you have every emotion, as you know. You have fear that they're not going to live or that might happen again because it can take up, to 3 days. You're so happy and glad that the EpiPen was there. You are absolutely
Yes.
terrified that it's going to happen again. And then you get angry. You get whatever caused this reaction. If it's a company,
Mm-hmm.
if it's a mistake from someone who said they'd be safe for you, or yourself. I think yourself is probably the worst, you know?
Yes.
Anyway, you go through all of them and it's very difficult. So I used to go in the shower, like I said earlier, and cry about it. So she didn't have to see it. 'Cause you don't want to invite little kids into adult feelings and adult emotions. They need to know
Yes.
that you care and that you will be there for them and that it is very serious and that it is emotional. But that's all they need to know, I think. And so I hid so much of it from her when she was little.
That makes sense. I think, children look to a parent to see how to react to something. Like when they're really small and they fall down, they look at you like, should I cry or should I laugh? And I think it's the same thing with food allergies and anaphylaxis. They're looking to you to see how they should react and see how bad this is. And so staying calm it's hard though. It's a lot on the parent to try to stay calm. So I think it's great that you allow yourself that emotional release because we all know holding these things in is not healthy either. So you're getting to have that out and also setting an example for her that this is okay. And so I think that's amazing. It's a lot
Yeah.
for parents to hold and I completely understand all of that goes with it. But what I want to talk about, I want to segue a little bit because what you have created for the food allergy community is completely tremendous. And I know that for me personally, when I feel out of control or angry or emotional or sad about food allergies, when I feel like I can do something in the community to sort of give back and participate and advocate, that helps me feel a little more in control of my own family situation. So tell me what caused you to start your business.
Well, like I said earlier, I taught Montessori and I was at school, and a friend of mine who is a pharmacist, she had said to me, Lizzie, you got to take her to Disney World. And I have to be really honest. You can see my Disney statue back there, but I had never been to Disney World. And I had told parents, I will never, ever be part of the Disney machine. They're not going to own my family. I'm not going to buy all the DVDs that magically go into a vault or whatever. Yeah, truly.
Famous
That's
last
that's
words.
what you're right, right? I know. That's how I lived. I'd never been to Disney in my life, and I thought, what does it have to offer me? So she worked on me. This pharmacist friend of mine, and I don't want to cry. She'd worked, and she finally, when my daughter was 4, I decided, well, shoot, I'll just take her. And she said, they're really good at food allergy. You just don't understand. So I went. I cried the entire time. The chefs would come out. This is when she was 4 going on 5. She's 16. Many years ago. We would run into chefs occasionally that were like, oh God, another food allergy. But
Here we go
it
again.
it didn't no, but it didn't even bother us because 90% of them were great. Well, those chefs now are gone. There are no chefs there that would not want to accommodate food allergies. Anyway, so we went to Disney. I packed the car full of groceries, like tons of groceries. I thought, we're going to be there for 6 nights. I've got to have food. At the time, I don't think there was a Whole Foods there. And back then, it was really hard to buy allergy-friendly food. It's very different than today. So I thought, oh my God, the stores down there were Publix. And I thought, I don't know if they even carry what we need. So anyway, pack the car full. We go down. And the chefs were wonderful. They were great. I cried on the way home. My daughter cried on the way home. And my husband's like, oh my God, what am I going to do with you guys? So fast forward 6 months. My husband says to me, what do you want to do for your birthday? And I go, I want to go down to Disney. I just want a vacation because it was truly the first vacation I'd been on since my daughter was born. It wasn't really about the rides. It wasn't really about the characters, the princesses. I didn't have to cook in a kitchen because that first trip I had only used goddess dressing and I believe half a bag of lettuce, maybe an apple, and that's it. And in the second time, it was very different. I didn't take pictures of Oh, I did. I took pictures of Mickey Mouse and my daughter with the princesses and stuff. But what I really focused on were those chefs. And so I would have them stand next to my daughter, and they had never had their pictures taken. They were not even, some of them were kind of taken aback. They were like, what do you know, I just got out of the kitchen, kind of look. But most of them loved it. And so I'm like, you're more important than Mickey Mouse. You're more important than Donald Duck. Then the princess toast, you are truly the magic of Disney. And so I take their pictures, and we came home. We were crying again in the car, driving back to Atlanta. I said, Jeff, I want to build a website. And I'm like really not a techie person at all. I've been a Montessori teacher, which we don't even use computers in the classroom. And he's like, okay. He goes off to work, he comes home, and I'd taken little Post-it notes and had posted them all over our kitchen wall, not knowing that that's how other people really do it in different industries, like thinking about different products or whatever they want to do. Kind of like an idea or a thinking board. And I had each allergen at the top at the time, top 8 allergens, what restaurants I think could accommodate them, where they could eat. And my husband's like, wow. So he built me a website called allergyfreemouse.com. And at the time, there had been no Disney allergy websites, nothing out there at all. And we got to the point where we had, maybe 1,000, 2,000 people coming a day and looking at the website. Now there's different resources. There's Facebook groups. The Facebook page is still out there. I unfortunately, I don't have a whole lot of time to devote to it, but I still try to. So anyway, we built that, and people started coming to the website, and I was at a stay-at-home mom at this point because my daughter was going into first grade, and I thought, gosh, I'll just be the food allergy mom. I've taught for 22 years. I'll do all that, and I'll be the room mother, which lasted for 8 years. I was the room mother, like most food allergy moms that can do.
Yeah, I was about to raise my hand like, yep.
Right. And so I asked my mother, who was a travel agent. I said, and she was a travel agent until she was 88 years old. She actually passed away a couple years ago. And she started this when I was in high school because she didn't want to be an empty nester, kind of not with in a career. And I thought to myself, travel agent, who would ever do that? And she loved it. So I said to my mom, how can I turn this into something that I can turn into a business where I can devote my time, but still make a living, this website? And she goes, oh, it's really easy what you need to do. And I said, well, what's that? And she said, become a travel agent. And I thought to myself, a travel agent? It didn't have too much glamour associated to it or anything. But the crazy thing is this, I finally decided to do it. Gosh, 2014. And it's the best career I can't even imagine, I could ever imagine for myself. I get to educate people about Disney. I get to educate people about how to navigate different places in the Caribbean, Universal, stuff like that. And my daughter gets to see me turn something that was so deadly and daunting into something that is, I don't want to use the word magical because we always do that, but it's very magical. I can send her to college now. I'm going to be able to pay for her to go to college, and she won't have any tuition debt, which is amazing. What I do, it just happened to work out because I love to plan. I love to educate. I love Disney. I feel very passionate about those chefs. I love to cook myself. And if you've ever been on my page, I show a lot of people how to do different types of cooking stuff. So, and I love kids. And I've worked with families my entire career being a Montessori teacher. So it really worked out beautifully. So that's how it happened. That's the whole background on it.
Well, and what I love about that is that it really, you said it all, it's sort of lucky and it happened, but it really was like one decision after the next that prepared you for this career. And one thing that happened after the next. I think something that's interesting in life is, we want to think that we make these big sweeping decisions and these big sweeping things happen to us, but it's usually all the little things that add up. So your background as a teacher, your background working with families, your background as a food allergy mom, your passion for Disney, it all did line up into this beautiful career that is so helpful for our community. And I have a little secret, which is that I have actually not taken my kids to Disney yet. We were going to go earlier this year, and then COVID. And so I feel like the world's worst mom and food allergy mom, because I've always heard the most amazing things about Disney, but we'll have to connect another time because I would love to take my kids. And we have, just branched out and traveling, and we were able to do that safely. But as a food allergy mom, I am still cooking 3 meals a day. So the thought of actually having a magical chef cook for my kids would be really the best vacation ever. So I can understand that, even though I haven't lived it yet, but I know you've made a tremendous difference in so many food allergy families' lives. And that's just wonderful.
Oh, that's beautiful. Thank you so much. I
Of course.
I talked to some food allergy parents that have never met another food allergy mom or dad. They find me usually either through Facebook or they find my website, and maybe someone has mentioned to them Disney's great. Different ways they find me. But when they do reach me, they don't want to get off the phone because they've never talked. I know I want to cry because they've never talked to somebody, another mom that has food allergies, and it's just overwhelming. But they trust me. They trust the process. They go and sometimes they call me from like a restaurant, and they'll be crying because that's the first meal their child's ever had that they didn't prepare. And it's just, I can't tell you, it's the most rewarding career I've ever had. It really is. I know I'm crying, but it's a good thing. It's a good cry.
No, the crying is a good thing. And I have cried so much, so I understand. Well, and that's something that I think is such a silver lining to this digital world that we live in, being able to connect. I'm fortunate that where I live, there are a lot of us food allergy moms. I live in the Northeast in Connecticut, and it's sort of a hot spot. We're everywhere. But I see on Instagram moms all over the country, all over the world who feel super isolated. And so thank God we have the internet, and we have Instagram and Facebook, and we have businesses like yours where we don't have to be next door to be able to work together and connect. Because I think being a food allergy mom can be extremely hard, especially if you feel alone. And I've always felt more in control and more empowered when I felt like I had an army with me. So you're basically a food allergy therapist and travel agent. And I know that people are just really lucky to have you. So I'm interested, for the people who are watching us, who maybe are feeling isolated or are newly diagnosed or are feeling overwhelmed, but still would like to get engaged in this community in some way. What would you say are your tips for getting involved, and or just your favorite resources, just some of your favorites that you would like to share?
Well, when we first were diagnosed, I was never on Facebook. In fact, I was never on Facebook until I had to build my Allergy Free Mouse Facebook page. And I had to have a private page to be able to do it, to admin it. Facebook has a lot of, like, there's nut allergies, there's peanut allergies, there's peanut tree nut allergies, there's soy allergies, there's corn allergies, there's all allergies. There's groups for kids, there's groups for moms. You can kind of pick and choose what group you want to join. And there's one group I do know of that's private, and it costs, I believe, about $10 a month. And it's the Milk Allergy Moms page. She goes by Ma'am. And that is the most beautiful group of women I've ever met. We're all very, very different, diverse, but there's no drama. And the thing that I would say to parents that were newly diagnosed is to be very careful about what group you join, because there are people that like to stoke the fire and get more views on their pages. And I don't know if they intentionally do it, but they'll say, "Do you always read labels?" And you're like, "Oh my God, really?" They're going to ask everybody in the group that. And some people go, "Well, no, of course not." And you're like, "What?" And then it just starts to stuff. Or they'll post a picture of their child in anaphylaxis. And I know you've probably seen this. And they'll say, "Yes. Should I call it? What should I do?" And you're like, "Epi, get off Facebook.
Get off Facebook, please."
Yes. Like that. And it's hard to know which ones to navigate. I think you can find out fairly quickly which ones are like that. Get out of them. I highly suggest that, because it's not good for your mentality. It's not good for anybody involved in that. But the Milk Allergy Moms group, they have a private group, and you can go on there at 3:00 in the morning. I personally have done this. And I've said, "Gosh, I'm so worried because I'm the only caretaker for my daughter, my husband, myself. I have a sister who's the caretaker for her husband. Both of the grandparents are gone. And I'm just like panicked at 3 a.m. This happened one time.
Mhm.
And like 5 moms chimed in and said, it's going to be okay. We'll walk you through everything. We'll get a game plan together. If anyone needs to take care of Charlotte, because she's 16 now, we will take her. It's just such a beautiful group. I can't tell you. Yeah, it really is. So there's groups like that. Some people can't afford $10 a month. And so what I would suggest is to go on pages like yours, to go on pages that are friendly and nice, and join a local food allergy group in your community. And if there's not one, start one if you have time. And a good way
Mhm.
of doing that, let's say you live in a small, let's say you live in North Dakota, is to go to your allergist and say, I'm going to start this group, and make some cards up, pass them out, or a pamphlet or something like that, and pass it out. The allergist will give it to people, and you could start one. And I think there's actually umbrellas. Like I think FAIR has different groups across the United States and cities. I would
FAIR
start there,
does,
get
and if
to
you
know
go
people.
on their website, you can search for support groups that are sort of FAIR acknowledged support groups, and so that's a great way. It's a phenomenal tip to get started to see if there already is one, and if not, I
Yeah,
love
if
your
there's
suggestion
not
for
one,
how to start
contact
one.
somebody. Yeah, and if there's not one, contact somebody that's already done one, and they'll help you. I can't imagine a FAIR
Absolutely,
admin of another city that wouldn't help. That's what they want. We all want the same thing, to live healthy. And
absolutely.
and then no one's done this that I know of. I can't believe it, but I would start a group through your school district. There are school district groups for sports. There's school district groups for all sorts of stuff. Maybe your school, if you live in a large city like Atlanta or Chicago or Los Angeles, maybe just your school. But if you live in a small town, maybe the whole district, and get the food allergy parents together, and you can advocate for each other. I've never seen anyone do it, but I think looking back, I would have done that, because as you work collectively as a group, you'll get more things done, like getting rid of school parties and
Absolutely.
stuff like that.
I agree with you because I feel like what happens in my experience is, and things I've heard, one mom going into the school and talking about her one child's allergies very often can be met with, oh, you're hysterical, you're overreacting, we can't make all these changes just for your child. But strength in numbers always wins. And so coming together as a committee in your school or in your district is such a great idea, because then it's easier to showcase the, depth of allergies at a certain school or a district and why certain things need to change. So I love that idea.
I think so. And you could even form a model of it and even start a business doing that. There's different types. If somebody wants to do it and wants to make a business out of it and come up with a whole model and charge the PTA, or not PTA, but a group of parents that want to chip in money, whatever, and say, help us get started on what we need to do. But I think, like, as long as advocacy goes, I think if you have a passion, mine has always been helping little kids have voices and dealing, with their parents and explaining to them why their child should advocate for themselves. And that goes along with Montessori. But I think there's all sorts of like great ideas for people that a businesses. I would just do this. What do people need? Like start there. Like, what do I need in my life? Fill that if you can. For those that didn't know there was a need because they were doing it so well, then maybe they could do that, become an advocate, and better their lives and other people's lives.
That is such perfect advice. And I think we're actually going to end with that because that was poignant and perfect and exactly what I wanted people at home to hear. So thank you so much. It was such a pleasure to get to talk to you and hear your story and share your story. And I'd like for you to tell everybody one more time where they can find you online.
You can find me online at pixielizzie.com. That's my website. You can also find me on Facebook at Pixie Lizzie Magical Food Allergy Travel Agent. There's a picture of Donald and myself. Feel free to reach me, contact me. I deal with sandals and beaches. I do Walt Disney World, Disneyland Paris, which is a whole different animal, but I go walk people through it. Alani, and I'd send lots of people on Disney Cruise Line.
you gave us so many incredible tips on how to get started as an advocate or things to think about. And I would also just suggest everyone could check out foodallergy.org. The website is chock full of all kinds of resources, including ways to get involved as an advocate. So join us there, of course. And you can find me at Instagram or my website, hillarytollecarter.com. Lizzie, this was such a pleasure. I absolutely adored speaking with you. I could literally chat with you for hours, but I know we've got to get on with our day. So thank you. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. And everybody have a magical day.